Good morning, everyone. This is SMD Mazharul Haq, Assistant Professor, Triple Department, ISL Engineering College. I am dealing the subject utilization of electrical energy. And in the previous class, what we have did is we have studied about the high frequency eddy current heating, as well as we have studied about the dielectric heating also. And high frequency eddy current heating, we have studied about what is the efficiency of high frequency eddy current heating, as well as where it is used, we have studied. So today's topic is dielectric heating and electric arc furnace. In the dielectric heating, we will study about the dielectric heating process, as well as its applications, as well as the equations of the power, or the equations of current and voltage, and also we will deal about the electric arc furnace and where the furnaces are used. So let's start. So first of all, we will again discuss about the dielectric heating. In dielectric heating, the use of dielectric loss is made. The material to be heated is placed as a slab between the metallic plates or electrodes connected to a high frequency AC supply. So that means that whatever the dielectric losses are being produced in the dielectric heating process are used for dielectric heating. And the material that is to be heated is placed as a slab between metallic plates. Two metallic plates are there, and in between a slab is placed, and these two metallic plates are also called as electrodes, and these electrodes are connected to a high frequency AC supply. So it is dielectric heating is nothing but whenever a metal is placed as a slab between two metallic plates connected to a high frequency supply is called as dielectric heating. And polarization effect. When a changing electric field is applied, the molecules of the material to be heated will try to align with the field and follow the field changings. So, when a changing electric field is applied, that means that alternating electric field or AC supply is applied, the molecules of material to be heated will try to align with the field and follow the field changings. And at well-defined frequencies, rubbing between the individual molecules leads to internal heat development, and this can increase the temperature in the material. So whenever you are applying an alternative electric field, what happens is the material to be heated will try to align with the field. How the field direction is there, in that direction only the molecules will be aligning. So at well-defined frequencies, as we are giving some frequency to it, well-defined frequencies, rubbing between the individual molecules inside the material leads to the internal heat development and increase the temperature in the material. That is called as polarization effect. Coming to the basic principle, when a capacitor is connected to an AC source, practically the phase angle between the current and the voltage applied is not 90 degrees. Okay, there is some leakage current flows between the two plates through the dielectric medium, and the power is lost. Whenever I am telling you here that whenever the phase angle between the current and voltage applied is not 90 degrees, then what happens is there should be some leakage current flowing, and therefore some power should be lost. And this power is utilized for heating the charge. As already discussed in the previous class, that charge nothing but the body to be heated. So this power is utilized for heating the charge, and you can say charge as a body also. Okay. Next, the required high frequency supply is obtained from electronic oscillator circuit, and you can see that the high frequency supply is obtained from electronic oscillator circuit, where you can see in this picture that you are giving a high frequency AC supply, and to this high frequency supply nothing but it is given from the electronic oscillator. For desired frequency we can use this high frequency oscillator. And here is nothing but the charge, that is the dielectric material that is to be heated is called as a charge, and the metal plates, here is one metal plate and here it is not visible here, so other side is two metal plates. The two metal plates are connected to a high frequency AC supply, and in between the charge is kept, and due to the molecules present inside this charge there is some heat generated, and that heat will be nothing but the dielectric heating. So this material is called as dielectric material, and the heating is called as dielectric heating. So this dielectric heating is possible by the connecting this circuit with a high frequency oscillator as well as two metal plates. So coming to the next thing, the heat is developed by dielectric laws within the substance, which is indeed utilized for heating the substance itself. So the heat is developed by dielectric laws, as we already discussed, within the substance, which is indeed utilized for heating the substance itself. Now the electric field applied should not be too large otherwise. So you are applying the electric field here, and the electric field should not be too large otherwise it will dislodge the electrons from the orbit, thereby ionizing the dielectric. That means breakdown will be occurring. Thus the applied electric field should be always less than the breakdown voltage. So any material will have some breakdown voltage, and we should see that the applied voltage should be less than the breakdown voltage, otherwise the dielectric heating will fail in that particular type of material. So dielectric heating is also known as a high frequency capacitance heating also. We can say that dielectric heating is also known as high frequency capacitance heating. So in this we have learned that the breakdown will occur if you are giving the voltage or electric field that is more than the breakdown voltage of any particular material that is to be heated. So the dielectric loss taking place in an insulating material is analogous to the hysteresis loss taking place in magnetic materials. So magnetic materials hysteresis will occur, and in the insulating material analog is dielectric loss will occur. Now the material to be heated may be considered as the dielectric or a condenser, and may be therefore represented as a capacitance placed in parallel with resistance as in the figure. So we are connecting a dielectric material between two plates and giving a high frequency supply. Now to represent it as a electric circuit and draw the vector diagram for it, we are showing here in this figure. This is the figure where we are having high frequency AC supply, as we have seen previously. High frequency AC supply given by the high frequency AC oscillator, and here the capacitance as well as this is the resistance. Why? Because the dielectric material has the capacitance as well as the resistance also, or this is the nothing but the material which is to be heated, which is having the capacitance as well as the resistance. So here these are the two plates which are connected between the high frequency AC supply as well as the dielectric material that is used here is represented by a capacitance and resistance. So here this point is stressed here, the material to be heated may be considered as a dielectric or a condenser, and this condenser can be represented as a capacitance in parallel with the resistance. Okay. So this is a condenser which is to be heated, and it is represented by capacitor and resistor in parallel. So if you give the supply here, the IC is the current that is flowing through capacitor, and IR is the current that is flowing through resistor, and the main current is I here. Okay. This is the phasor diagram, or we can say vector diagram. This vector diagram is having capacitance IC and resistance IR. If you see this, the angle made here is with phi, and as well as the angle made here is delta. The angle made between I and IC is delta, the angle made between I and IR is phi here. So we will discuss about this delta and phi in the coming slide. Now the power consumed is given by P is equal to Vi cos phi. Since phi is equal to 90 degrees minus delta, so from this figure we have seen that 90 degrees minus delta is equals to phi, or 90 minus delta is equals to phi, or 90 minus phi is equal to delta. We can see that it is here, it is from the center, it is going to the like this origin, and it is being a resultant value I. So what we say is the delta is equal to 90 minus phi, and phi is equal to 90 minus delta also we can write. So phi is equal to 90 minus delta from that figure, and cos delta is equal to IC by I. What is cos delta? Cos delta is nothing but it is adjacent side theta by hypotenuse. So we are using the Pythagoras theorem here and finding out cos delta, that is IC by I, adjacent side theta by hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is I and IC is the adjacent side. Next, I is equal to IC by cos delta by just making it here, sending I here and cos delta to the denominator. I is equal to IC by cos delta, and therefore P is equal to V into IC. In the place of I, this is the Vi cos phi equation. In the place of I, we are writing here IC by cos delta into cos 90 minus delta. Why? Because phi is equal to 90 minus delta, and therefore P is equal to V into IC by cos delta into what is cos 90 minus delta according to trigonometry? Cos 90 minus delta is equal to sin delta. So we are replacing here cos 90 minus delta by sin delta, and P is equal to V into IC by cos delta into sin delta. Okay. So P is equal to V into IC into tan delta. Okay. As trigonometry equation sin by cos is equals to tan, we replace V into IC into tan delta. So P is equals to V into what is IC in terms of voltage and reactance, V by XC. Why? Because by we want the current, means current is equal to voltage by reactance. So voltage by reactance is XC and tan delta. So here tan delta is equals to V square, V into V, we get V square by XC into tan delta. So V square by XC into tan delta is nothing but the power, V square by XC, or XC can be replaced by 1 by 2 pi FC. So 1 by 2 pi FC, if you replace is by XC, then it will come to the numerator and becomes V square into 2 pi FC tan delta. So power equation is P is equals to V square 2 pi FC tan delta. The equation of power is V square into 2 pi FC tan delta. So the power is dependent on voltage, the frequency, the capacitance, and tan delta. Here delta is called as dielectric loss angle also. Delta is called as dielectric loss angle also, and C is equals to A into epsilon naught epsilon r by d. As you know what is epsilon naught and epsilon r, and what is d. Okay. Now P is equals to V square into 2 pi f A into epsilon naught epsilon r by d into tan delta. So in the place of f, we are replacing, in the place of C, we are replacing this total value by C here, and tan delta is kept like that only. So if in the problems, if it is given, or in the numerical problems, if it is given that epsilon naught epsilon r value is given, and this d value is given, then we can find out the power, that is the P is equal to V square 2 pi f into A epsilon naught epsilon r by d into tan delta. So what are the advantages of dielectric heating? Let us see this one. If the materials to be heated is homogeneous and the alternating or varying electric field is uniform, heat is developed uniformly and simultaneously throughout the entire mass of charge. So if the material is to be heated homogeneous, means homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures we have seen. So in the similar way, material to be heated is homogeneous and the alternating electric field is uniform. Homogeneous means having same material. So if a material is having the same content there without any other materials, then what is done is, if the material to be heated is homogeneous and the alternating or varying electric field is uniform, heat is developed uniformly and simultaneously throughout the entire mass of charge. So the problem is with the heterogeneous mixture. If the material that is made up of pure, then the uniform heating is done simultaneously and throughout the entire mass of charge. As the materials heated by the process are non-conducting, so by the other methods heat cannot be conducted to inside so easily. Applications of dielectric heating. So we see here that the cost of equipment required for dielectric heating is so high that it is employed only where other methods are impracticable or too slow. Maybe because dielectric heating requires the more cost, because of the cost of equipment required for dielectric heating is so high. We are using it only when it is impracticable or too slow to use the conventional methods. Okay. It is mainly employed for heating certain materials to a moderate temperature that has low thermal conductivity. Like example is rubber for vulcanizing and wood for drying of wood, and setting glue in plywood. So this requires low thermal conductivity as well as moderate temperature, not so high temperature also. So setting the glue in the plywood manufacturing, textiles for drying, the textiles means the cloths that are made should be dried. For that purpose also we are using this dielectric heating. And plastics are softening, for the plastics to soften, as the crude plastic is very hard and we can't use it properly without softening. So the plastics are used for softening by this dielectric heating method. And dehydration of food and tobacco, and dehydration of food and tobacco means these tobaccos and food, if you want to package it, you have to dry it first. So For that purpose, we are using this dielectric heating and heating of bones, etc. So there are number of processes which require this dielectric heating, which has a characteristics of moderate temperature and low thermal conductivity. So there are a number of things that are using this dielectric heating. Okay, a few examples are shown in this slide. So mainly we are considering these applications. So plastic welding also, we can say that the two plastic materials are attached, that is called as plastic welding, and vulcanizing of rubber, vulcanization of rubber, gluing of wood, electronic sieving, and heating of raw plastic. And as I said that crude plastic or raw plastic is heated to make it soften. And the food processing industry uses this dielectric heating. So food processing, in that one we have pasteurizing of milk, and that is the killing of germs inside the milk is called as pasteurizing. And also dehydrating the fruits, some dehydrating of fruits is required, so that is also called as food processing. And defrosting the frozen food, some frozen foods should be defrosted while it is to be used again. So this type of dielectric heating is being used for this type of food processing industry. So we can see some of the figures that are shown here that are using the dielectric heating method, where the dielectric heating is being adopted for some sieving machine. Also we require the dielectric heating. And this is the wood gluing industry, where you can see that the wood gluing is being done by the dielectric heating process, where the setup is being like this. So the equipment cost is high here. So we generally use it for the purposes where it is necessary only, or the process is too slow only, we use the electric heating. So only the disadvantage is the cost of the equipment. And this is the heating of raw plastic. So this is the equipment used for heating of raw plastic. As you have seen that whenever the plastic is to be softened, we are using this machinery to make use the plastic to get softened. Okay. And this food processing industry, as I said just now, that food processing industry has many benefits for from the dielectric heating. So this is called as used in the food processing industry also. In the milk pasteurization also, dielectric heating method is also used. Okay, this is the picture of the machinery where you are having the containers as well as dielectric heating setup, where the milk is pasteurized and delivered for the usage. And we can see that these are the using the dielectric heating process. Okay. So now we will see that what is an electric arc furnace. What is the electric arc furnace? As you have discussed, the dielectric heating and electric arc furnace are the today's topic. So we will see that what is electric arc furnace. So you can see that a furnace is nothing but a body or a enclosement. We can see enclosure. So you can see that it is having a molten steel here, and the slag is there. What do you mean by slag? Slag is nothing but whenever you are heating this molten steel, some waste is being collected at the top, that is called as slag. And also this is the charging door, and these are the electrodes which are used to heat the metal, and this is the arc that is being produced from the electrodes for heating this particular metal, and this is called as spout. Okay, this is spout and this is the charging door. Okay. Now we will see that electric arc furnace. And what is electric arc furnace? What is electric arc? First of all, an electric arc is an electrical breakdown of gas resulting from a current flowing through normally non-conductive media such as air. So an electric arc is an electrical breakdown of gas resulting from a current flowing through normally non-conductive media such as air. So this is the non-conductive media, that is air, and this from this non-conductive media what happens is the breakdown of a gas occurs, and this breakdown of gas occurs and a current flowing through this normally a non-conducting media such as air. From in the air what happens is there is some arc is being developed. That arc is nothing but the flow of current only, and that produces some heat also. So an electric arc furnace heats charged material by means of electric arc. Electric arc is created between the two electrodes, or we can say that non-conductive media such as air will be there, so that that particular current will be flowing from this place to that place. As we have studied about the arc already in electrical power systems, that arcs are developed. In the same way, electrical arc is an electrical breakdown of gas resulting from a current flowing through normally non-conductive media such as air. So we can call it as electrical arc furnace also. EAF heats the charged material by means of electric arc. So this is the diagram of arc furnace, the simple diagram which is having, this is the exterior view from the side and this is the cutaway view from front. So if you see this exterior view, it is having some electrode mast, as well as we can say the slag door is here, and the slag door is being opened from this particular door, and we can see that in this particular cutaway view from front, we see that the electrodes are placed here. These are the electrodes, and this is the slag door here where the slag can be collected, and the water cooled panels are placed here. Why? Because the too much of heat will be there in this particular arc furnaces, and the steel melted is being collected here, and from that vertical tap hole whatever the melted steel can be collected into the ladle. And as we already discussed, that refractory hearth is there, because refractory hearth means that it doesn't allow the heat to pass through, or we can say that where the heat is being developed, the container, or we can say the place where the heat is developed is called as refractory hearth here. And this hydraulic rocker cylinder means that whenever you want to get this melted steel, we have to push some, we have to give some action, hydraulic action, such that it gets tilted up. The complete setup gets tilted up, and for this vertical tap hole we can collect the molten steel here. So we can say that the particular slag door is used to collect the impurities, or the waste should be collected here, and the molten steel is collected in the ladle here. So we are seeing this arc furnace where it is having all the setup of water cooled panels, the melting steel, vertical tap hole, a ladle, and also refractory hearth and hydraulic rocker cylinder. These are the main things that are to be considered in the arc furnace for melting of these particular metals. Structure of an electric arc furnace. As we have seen the structure now, the furnace consists of spherical hearth, that is in the bottom we are having a cylindrical shell and a swinging water cooled dome shaped roof. The roof has 3 holes for consumable graphite electrodes held by such mechanism that provides independent lifting and lowering of each electrode. We have seen here, this is the electrodes which can be easily pulled and pushed here for the necessary heating, and the electrode and the scrap form the star connection and of the 3-phase current, in which the scrap is the common junction. So we can see here that this particular electrodes are given the 3-phase star connection, and from that the arc is produced. This arc is being used to generate the heat here and melted its particular steel. Okay. Now the oxygen lancing is used on some furnaces to increase the rate of carbon removal from the melt. What is oxygen lancing? Oxygen lancing is nothing but we are providing some oxygen to remove the carbon removal from the melt. Okay. Now the other point is the furnace is mounted on a tilting mechanism for tapping the molten steel through a tap hole. As I said already, with a power spout located on the back side of the shell. So you can see here in the figure already I have shown you here, there is some spout like structure, and this is tilted, and this is tilted here, and this tilted one will be making this through the vertical tap hole, the steel melt is collected here. The hydraulic rocker is used for stirring purposes. Stirring purpose means the metallic steel or the melted steel will now should rocker means it should be shaked some times it should be stirred for some purposes, so that the molten steel will be collected easily in the particular ladle. The charge door through which the slag components and alloying additives are charged is located on the front side of the furnace shell, and the charge door is also used for removing the slag also. So we have to remove the slag and we have to collect only the molten steel. So refractory linings of electric arc furnaces are made generally of resin bonded magnesia carbon bricks. As I said that refractory linings, refractory earth is made of some carbon bricks or magnesia carbon bricks, so that the heat cannot escape from the arc furnaces. Okay. So physical process in electric arc furnace. So what are the processes that are being done in the electric arc furnaces? The melting process starts at low voltage, that is a short arc. That is called as short arc. Whenever we are heating a metal or melting a metal like steel, the melting process starts at a low voltage first. Now between the electrodes and the scrap, melting process starts at low voltage. The arc during this period is unstable. So short arc is very unstable. When the electrodes reach the liquid bath, the arc becomes stable and the voltage will increase for long arc. That means that when the electrodes reach the liquid bath, the arc becomes stable and voltage may be increased, means because we are having a setup of increasing the length and of that particular, these electrodes are being lifted as first of all short arc is given such that it starts melting. After that these electrodes are being lowered here so that it starts melting at high temperatures. So first of all we give the small short arc, and after that getting in the liquid state, or if the electrodes are reaching the liquid bath here, this particular liquid bath, what we can do is that this temperature can be raised for this electrode from the star connection already given here for the electrodes. So the temperature of the arc reaches 6300 degrees Fahrenheit or 3500 degrees centigrade. So this much of temperature is there in the arc furnace, that is electric arc furnace develops how much? 3500 degrees centigrade. So the students, this 3500 degrees centigrade temperature is required for electric arc furnace, and this is the important point to be noted, wherein some examinations will be asked this about the electric arc furnace. So we are telling about some facts and advantages now. The energy consumption of typical EAF, or that is electric arc furnace, varies from 350 to 700 kilowatt hours per ton of a steel produced. So this much amount of ton of steel produced will require how much amount? 700 kilowatt hour steel per ton. So per ton of steel, how much energy is required? 700 kilowatt hours of steel is being produced here. So this much of energy is required to produce this much amount of molten steel. The main advantage of electric arc furnace over the basic oxygen furnaces is their capability to treat charges containing up to 100% of the scrap. Like what we are telling about the scrap here is this to treat charges containing up to 100% of the scrap. That means whatever the particular steel is there, that is completely melted to a molten form 100%, whereas BOF or basic oxygen furnace doesn't do that. About 33% of the crude steel in the world is made in electric arc furnaces. This is the main point. Crude steel, about 33% of crude steel world is made in the electric arc furnaces. Now we will go to disadvantages. The enclosures to reduce high sound levels, dust collector for furnace of gas, and slag production, cooling water demand, heavy truck traffic for scrap, and materials handling and product. To reduce high sound levels, that is dust collector for furnace of gas, slag production, cooling water demand, heavy truck traffic for scrap, materials handling and products. Here the environmental effects of electricity generation also can be used. So you can see that the enclosures to reduce the high sound levels are the disadvantages, and dust collector for furnace of gas is one disadvantage, slag production is one of the disadvantage, slag is nothing but waste, and dust collector for furnace of gas, and cooling water demand. Why? Because we require water for this cooling that particular furnace, so that water demand is also a disadvantage, and heavy truck traffic for scrap, materials handling and products. So whenever you are collecting that particular scrap or the materials that are handling this particular steel, heavy truck traffic is also there, which requires more amount to be spent. And environmental effects of electricity generation. So electricity should be required more so as to raise the temperature of 300,500 degrees centigrade of temperature. So these are the following disadvantages of that particular EAF, that is electric arc furnace. So students, today we have dealt about the electric arc furnace and the dielectric heating. In the electric arc furnace, we have come across the construction, as well as we have seen the advantages and disadvantages of electric arc furnaces and their uses, and we have seen a very list of this particular dielectric heating applications also. So today I would like to end the class here, and in the next class we will be teaching about the electric welding. So thank you.